Al Jazeera Podcasts.
Today, as Palestinians mark the Nakba, in Arabic, the catastrophe, Gaza is living it now.
The UN has called for urgent international action to get aid into Gaza amid fresh warnings that nearly 500,000 people there, 1 in 5 of the population, now faces catastrophic hunger.
Gaza is on Trump's agenda as he tours the Arab Gulf. Will his visit make a difference? I'm Natasha del Toro, and this is The Take.
I'm Youmna ElSayed. I am Al Jazeera English correspondent in the Gaza Strip. I am currently in Cairo, Egypt, after I was able to evacuate with my husband and kids from Gaza in late December 2023.
Welcome back to The Take. We've followed your story and know that you've been a refugee with your family in Cairo for over a year now. How have they been?
Well, Natasha, of course, maybe it's not a secret that I am an Egyptian. I carry an Egyptian passport, but this does not change the reality that it does not grant any benefits to my Palestinian husband or Palestinian children. It has been a very difficult year since our evacuation. As a family, it's almost impossible to disconnect from the reality of what is happening just kilometers away across the border in Gaza.
You know what they're going through. You lived it. You have family there. You have friends there that you're still in touch with, and you're seeing and observing what's going on. And now also, you're a refugee in Cairo with your family, but you also had a refugee status from 1948, right? Tell me about that, Youmna.
Yes, well, most of the Palestinians who are living in the Gaza Strip are a very big portion of them are refugees that have come from other areas in the occupied West Bank and other areas out of the Gaza Strip. They're not, now that the world calls them the people of Gaza or Palestinians of Gaza, they have actually been forcibly displaced from their lands and actual origins, because our grandparents were forcibly displaced from these areas. This is the Nakba, the 1948 Nakba, which is the catastrophe. We call it Nakba in Arabic. It was the first and most catastrophic thing that could happen to Palestinians, the ethnic cleansing, forcibly displacement of their lands, of their native lands, and the confiscation of these Palestinian lands to in favor of the Israeli state.
So Youmna, this is the situation that you're talking about. It is this continual refugee status that's been occurring now for more than 70 years, almost 80 years. And so let's talk about the conditions now. The World Food Program just put out a report from the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification. It's a global hunger monitor saying that Gaza is experiencing acute food insecurity. People are on the brink of starvation. With Israel blocking all aid for 2 months, the entire population is at risk. Now, this report says that nearly 500,000 people are already living in what's called, quote, catastrophic hunger, which is the most extreme level that there is. That's 1 in 5 people. What has it been like for you and your family and the people that you know?
First of all, Natasha, the situation in Gaza is far worse than even whatever kind of report could even explain to the people. When we say there's no food, it's by the literal meaning of no food. Gaza, before the 7th of October, was under a lasting Israeli blockade. Everything was in numbers, in quantities, in amounts to what Israel saw convenient for Israel, not for the Palestinians in Gaza. And that's why for years, for decades, Palestinians in Gaza, over 70% of the population depended on an aid that came from UN organizations like UNRWA. And the aid that was always entering, it was barely enough. This is one thing. And the second thing is the fact that, let's not forget that the simple, basic necessities of life, like water and electricity, that we need water even for irrigation, for agriculture. These two supplies were completely cut from the Gaza Strip since October 7. And before October 7, there wasn't enough electricity or power in Gaza. So already these conditions were not stable conditions. Mm-hmm. Now, Israel has not been allowing aid to enter Gaza for nearly 3 months. Now everyone in Gaza lives basically the same conditions. Back in the October, November, and December month of 2023, when there was very little aid entering, and I used to spend hours and hours trying to find bread for my children, or even just energy biscuits that were distributed. Just that was a luxury of life that we couldn't find, and it was scarcely available. Now it is not available at all. Hearing the stories and knowing that your own loved ones, they go with whatever alternatives, even if it's bad flour, even if it's pasta that they grain, even if it's barley, even if it's just leaves of trees at some point, anything that is eatable, even if it's not eatable, Natasha, they make it eatable to continue surviving.
I mean, it's really heartbreaking to hear you talk about this. And also, you know, we have to understand it's children and mothers that are really bearing the brunt here. And of course, these are people that you personally know and an experience that you've had. Now, Israel blames Hamas for the hunger that's going on in Gaza right now. Here's David Menser, the Israeli government spokesperson.
Famine has never happened because of Israel's efforts to get more aid in, despite the best efforts of Hamas. Hamas wish to cause hunger inside the Gaza Strip. Israel is trying to prevent that happening.
Youmna, what do you make of that?
I think it's just another excuse that is a very lame excuse, because on the ground, looking at facts and realities on the ground, it's Israel that is banning aid from entering, regardless of all these international organizations on the ground in Gaza that are responsible for the distribution of the aid to the families in need. So Hamas doesn't really have anything to do with the distribution of the aid or the receiving of the aid and distributing it among the people in Gaza. Hamas does not have a hand in that. Since the war began, since the genocide took place, the fact that Israel affiliates each and every living being in the Gaza Strip to Hamas, this is another story. So who is the Hamas that Israel is referring to? Is it referring to the civilians that are dying of starvation? The children that are suffering of malnutrition in hospitals? The journalists that are reporting on this starvation and these events that are happening? Who are the Hamas that Israel is referring to that are stopping the aid? So when Israel comes and bans the aid from entering and bans these international delegations from doing their job, or targets them like the World Central Kitchen and targets their employees who are conducting humanitarian operations inside Gaza in delivering aid, and then says Hamas is the reason why aid is not reaching Gaza, I think the entire world can see for their own eyes that this is completely untrue.
And we've seen these heartbreaking videos. We've seen these images of newborns with frail bodies who are slowly dying from malnutrition.
This is Rahaf Ayad from Gaza. Once full of life, she has now lost nearly half her body weight. Her bones jot through her fragile skin. Her parents have nothing left to feed her. Only time leaves and water keep her alive.
My daughter is suffering from acute malnutrition. Since the border crossings were closed, we barely have any food. We watch our children suffer right in front of us, and we can't do anything to help. My entire family survives on just one meal a day. We rely on soup kitchens to get by. We desperately need the crossings to open so that the aid can reach Gaza.
There's about 3,000 trucks that are stuck in Egypt that are carrying life-saving supplies to Gaza. Has there been any hope at all for those trucks to get in?
Well, for the past entire month, these trucks have been stalled and stalled and stalled until even when they were allowed, or some of them were allowed to enter, they would enter with their food they're carrying already rotten, not fit for human consumption. But the people of Gaza still used it because it's the only option. I saw mothers clearing out the cans where they opened them, and the cans were filled with worms. But because they have no other alternative, they still cleared out that rotten piece at the top and try to make whatever use of it because it's the only option that they have. And until now, why are these trucks waiting at the border like that and not entering? It's because Israel is banning them from entering, regardless of the Rafah border being an Egyptian border that is controlled by Egypt. Israel has banned these humanitarian aid trucks to go through that border and to enter Gaza.
But I guess that's what I don't understand. I mean, the food it's there. It's waiting to go in. It's in these trucks. I mean, have you heard that they might come in? I mean, what is the hope for that?
The hope for that is that there would be a sense of real international pressure to get Israel to allow for that humanitarian aid to enter. These, the reports are there, the people on the ground are there, the international delegations are there of these humanitarian organizations and international organizations. What is needed is real pressure, not condemnation, Natasha. We're past condemnation. We're way past condemnation. It's not going to keep the people of Gaza alive. It's not going to allow the humanitarian aid to enter.
After the break, more with Youmna. So Youmna, I'm talking to you while U.S. President Donald Trump is in Doha, and one of the stops on his tour of the Arab Gulf countries, and he kicked off his visit with the Riyadh summit on Tuesday.
The people of Gaza deserve a much better future, but that will or can not occur as long as their leaders choose to kidnap, torture, and target innocent men, women, and children for political ends. The way those people are treated in Gaza, there's not a place in the world where people are treated so badly.
What do we know about the talks that he's had so far in relation to Gaza?
So it seems that President Trump's move to come to Riyadh and to go to Doha, even prior to these visits, he's been talking about the efforts and the fact his recent comments about the Gaza Strip and the deteriorating situation in the Gaza Strip and how unbearable it is. But maybe the question is, how do the people in Gaza receive all this? We've been hearing many parties talk. The United States, for the people of Gaza, Natasha, has a main role because it's the main body that weaponizes Israel in its genocide against the Palestinians. It is the only role player that has the power to implement any kind of change to end this genocide towards the Palestinian people, to force Israel maybe to allow the humanitarian aid to enter. For many months, we've watched negotiations taking place in Qatar, in Egypt, the mediators of Qatar and Egypt trying to bring ceasefire talks into implementation. And yet, every single time there is an agreement, there is a breach to that agreement by the Israeli side. What the people care about is that their suffering comes to an end. The United States has been the main supervisor of these negotiations and these agreements that were made, but yet it has failed to hold Israel accountable to breaching its part of the agreement. So yes, President Trump now is in Qatar. He's been participating in the Gulf Summit. How much optimistic can we be towards these visits? After almost 2 years of genocide, very little optimism. Very little optimism, to be honest with you.
Finally, Youmna, and we spoke about this a little bit at the beginning, but we're airing this episode on Nakba Day. And Palestinians mark this day every year on May 15th, remembering the massacres and the forced displacement of over 700,000 people in 1948, carried out by Zionist militias during the creation of Israel. What does this day mean to you and your family in Gaza?
First of all, Natasha, I want to tell you something about Palestinians. Every time we spoke about the Nakba, and we remembered the Nakba as Palestinians before the war, we used to say, and we used to ask ourselves, how could our ancestors leave their lands? How could they allow to be ethnically cleansed and to be forcibly displaced? They should have endured. They should have clinged to their lands and never left. In 2023, when we went through the same Nakba, we have two Nakbas now, the 1948 Nakba and the 2023 Nakba, that our generations, not the generations of our ancestors, but our generations have lived, we knew exactly what it meant to be forcibly displaced, to be pushed out by force when you don't have choice. You don't have a choice to be alive except to be forcibly displaced. We wanted to keep our children alive because those of us who did not leave and those of us who stayed got killed and their children got killed. This year, for Palestinians, the Nakba just adds another year of commemoration to the many years of injustice, suppression, oppression, and brutality that the Palestinians have been living within through or by the Israeli illegal occupation. But it also adds a great disgrace to the entire international community that has been silenced. It has been silent for years about the injustice of Palestinians and still is silent and is complicit, a full complicity by their silence and by their inaction towards every single injustice that the Palestinians have been subjected to day in, day out, since 1948 and until this day.
Do you plan on going back home to Gaza?
I swear to God, Natasha, the only question my children ask me every single day is, when do we go back home to Gaza? Because when your land is in your heart, it doesn't matter where you are. You always want to go back. I always tell them, of course we will go back. We will rebuild. We will relive. We will, all the streets and all the neighborhoods and all the places do not look the same anymore. But I tell them, we're still here. We still can remake our Gaza again. As long as we live, we can remake Gaza again. And I believe that this is the same feeling for each and every Palestinian. Even if they were forced to leave for now, we were forced to leave because we wanted to keep our children alive. These children are the ones who are going to go back and rebuild and relive in Gaza.
Thank you, Youmna.
Thank you, Natasha.
And that's The Take. If you want to catch more episodes like this, make sure that you're following our YouTube playlist. That's where you're going to find all of our recent content updated regularly so that you never miss an episode. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button so that you stay in the loop with all things Al Jazeera English. See you tomorrow.